Good morning. I'm Ron Bishop. I'm the curator of Mexican and Central American archaeology in the museum. I'm here to tell you a little bit this morning about our long-term program in partnership with the National Institute of Standards and Technology of applying instrumental neutron activation analysis to the study of archaeological materials. Basically, we can take a small amount of a sample from an archaeological object, expose it to a cloud of neutrons, render it radioactive. The emanations coming from it are in the form of gamma rays, which can be sorted according to energy, quantified, and essentially representing a chemical fingerprint for that object. And once you have fingerprints, you can compare one to another. The focus here is on the Maya, known for their great civilization between 600 AD and 900 AD in Central America, southern Mexico. They're known well for their monuments, their massive cities, and their prediction, of course, of the end of the world in 2012. The objects that we analyze come from a diverse number of sources. They come from ongoing field excavations, working with dozens of collaborators in the area. They come from small museums, large museums, sometimes registered collections in Mexico or Guatemala, and sometimes poorly curated storage rooms. Over the years, we've assembled a massive database that allows us to essentially subdivide the Maya area up into a series of geochemical provinces. And these can be used to address very specific questions of ongoing archaeology, such as where did the pottery come from that were discovered in the tombs associated with the founder of the Copan dynasty at the border of Honduras and Guatemala? Essentially, we analyzed the pottery from 3 tombs, including the founder's tomb, and we were able to attribute the tomb material seen here in the white diamonds to different characterized groups that were the subject of hypotheses as to origin. The main candidate was the Guatemalan Salvadorian highlands, focused mainly on the site of Kamanohuyu. In point of fact, it's the only area that we found no pottery associated with in the tombs. For each of the tombs, we could therefore break down the distribution of the ceramics as to their sources. Now, this does not tell us where the ruler came from, the founder. It only tells us the pottery that was associated with the founder, but that gives us directions to look at and essentially refocuses our interpretations of the founding of the dynasty. Over the course of the years, we've been able to work with museums throughout the world, analyzing the pottery that is the subject of ooh and ah speculation that are on display. They have elaborate thematic scenes, they have hieroglyphic texts, but no one knows exactly where they came from. And we have worked with the curators, taken samples of these, and the object is, of course, to allocate these to different sub-areas of the Maya so that we can tell the histories that are recorded on the vessels, now interpret them within a geographic perspective that we have linked the isolated art object with the scientifically excavated material. And we can tell a little bit about the potter's craft, the subject of specialization. The top 2 vessels were observed in one of the great museums of the US. My art historian colleague said she thought they were painted by the same individual because of the way the glyphs were rendered. I accepted that. I analyzed those, and the first 2 columns of analyses show the data are so close together, I couldn't analyze the same sample twice and get data any closer. The possibility that it is made from that they were made from the same clay preparation is arguable. 2 years later, another vessel was found in the Detroit Institute of Art, and she thought it was also the same painter. I analyzed that, and while it is not as identical as the first 2 are to each other, it nonetheless points to the same workshop. We can now look at these 3 vessels, especially the 2 that are figural painted, showing rulers, showing action, and now we can interpret them in a geographic perspective relative to the other materials that are currently being excavated under scientifically controlled conditions. Thank you.
Very basic, but how do you actually sample?
I use like a dental drill.
Yeah.
Sorry. I use a like a dental drill, a tungsten carbide drill bit, and from the bottom, and take a couple hundred milligrams of the sample. That allows enough for 2 analyses should one have problems. It is minimally destructive. Most of the time is actually spent in convincing the curators and conservators that it will not inflict structural damage to any of the objects for the whole vessels. But we have done this now for thousands of figurines and samples, and so far we've never had any sacrificial victims.